Hey, I'm Justin. I'm the founder of Pax Financial, and I wanted to talk to you about the crypto market. And I've covered a few subjects already. So if you haven't tuned in before, I've covered, you know, the similarity between the crypto market and torrenting. So if you're familiar with torrenting, that's a good start. I've talked about ledgers, and then I did a slightly longer talk about smart contracts and their impacts. And now I want to talk about something that's very important, and it sits on top of the smart contract idea, and this is the idea of asset exchange. And it's very difficult to exchange assets with another party in a trusted manner, obviously. And this can be a Craigslist problem. This can be a problem in many, many, many spaces. And it just turns out that because of the technologies that have been built previously, such as the ledger technology, the contract technology, if you have that sort of idea baked within your psyche now, you're now ready to jump into this next transformative idea. So you're already thinking, oh my God, think of all these services that can change in the world, and you've come around to understand why that's possible, and you're curious about those companies. There's actually another layer on top of this. So one of the main sort of smart contract technologies, let's say, or distributed processing systems that's being built within this sort of ecosystem is this concept of a distributed exchange. And distributed exchanges are a big deal because they essentially disrupt some of the most powerful systems today. So if we think about, well, what's the Amazon store? What's the Toronto Stock Exchange? What is Kijiji? What is eBay? What do all these massively successful companies have in common? They're all marketplaces. And so the business model of a marketplace, marketplaces are insanely, as a entrepreneur, I understand that marketplaces are kind of the holy grail of market positioning, because you have a bunch of people on one side wanting to move an asset. They do a bunch of work generating this asset, and you have a bunch of people on the other side who want that asset and want to exchange it for something else. And what you're trying to do is wedge yourself in the middle like a dirty pig capitalist, so you can suck off the value difference or whatever margin in between. And this is how Airbnb works, this is how all these sites work, right? Decentralized exchanges essentially take that exact same concept, but make it so you don't require a centralized authority to organize and create secure transactions. Well, why is that possible? How could they do all that verification work themselves? And it's because of the shared ledger technology and because of the smart contracts. A lot of the gatekeeping and work that, say, Airbnb might do on their website, including the delegation of manual efforts by third-party verifiers, which can be coded into a smart contract, all of that stuff can be orchestrated within a decentralized exchange. What does that mean? Well, it's kind of cool for entrepreneurs, because if you bake an application that has fair pricing from the get-go in its source code, and you publish it, and you create a decentralized exchange, then everyone can see what margin you're taking, and everyone can say, you know what, that's kind of a fair margin. Actually, I don't like the service. There's a cheaper one, blah, 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 blah. And so there's incentivized competition that actually, eventually, much to the dismay of the entrepreneur, deletes the margin. So it's kind of like an anti-entrepreneur technology in a way. You build something, you could extract some margin, but over time, as other people contribute to the space, necessarily your margin will be removed because people are going to publish similar services with thinner margin requirements and that will perform more efficiently on the blockchain. So there's this natural, I don't want to say trickle down because that's the wrong, it's not trickle down, it's actually, your margin gets competed at by other contributors to the space, and then the fulfillment of the decentralized exchange happens globally by the market participants. So instead of you having Airbnb servers where someone logs into your server and you have all the listings in your database of all the houses, and someone else has all the listings in their database of whatever, and the spirit of it, a decentralized exchange, is that all these ledgers and these wallets are actually viewable. You can see them all. So everyone has the same data, and the value exchange that's going on in that application might be submitted by you. You've created this decentralized exchange, and the fees that people pay are upfront. And so, depending on how people manage their own, it's not a one size fits all. It depends on how the creators create these technologies. But in the purest example, this idea of a decentralized exchange essentially replaces Amazon, Google, and all these other not Google, sorry, Amazon, Kijiji, Airbnb. These sort of technologies just kind of go away, and they actually just end up being special interfaces to a decentralized exchange. Now, currently, the most popular, I believe, decentralized exchange is something called Uni Swap. So you can sign up today for a Binance account. You do all your KYC stuff, right? And then you can start trading crypto assets. And Binance will mop up and hold all your assets for you. Or you could use something like Uniswap, where you have your own wallets, you have your own data, and you post transactions through Uniswap, and they actually facilitate the transfer for you. So I'd recommend that people that are trying out Binance hop over to Uniswap and try it out with your wallet. Play around with this stuff. It's very interesting and useful technology. And when you're engaging in this space, think about as this space matures, because right now, you can exchange an asset. It takes longer on a decentralized exchange than it does on a centralized exchange. The fee structure may or may not be better depending on the assets. The fill times are slower. The slippage is harder to maintain. But think about this broadly. Think forward 5 years. Think about what happens when someone's listing their car like this, and there's actually no Kijiji or none of these services, and these value exchange services become public utilities. This is where the technology derives its value from, and I think understanding how disruptive decentralized exchanges can be to banks, to fund managers, and across all industries is foundational to understanding just how big this space will get and how important it is to be involved with the early players. Now we can get into this area of deep irony, because we have many fund managers and many bankers trying to get into crypto, and I don't think that they understand yet that they're kind of betting on the technologies that are about to end their very existence. It's the bigger they pump up the faster you pump up Uniswap, the faster you're putting yourself out of your job. It's kind of like investing in if you imagine the Americans and Germans are fighting, in World War II, it's almost like Americans investing in German tanks or something. So I don't know if sometimes when these managers or bankers are making their investment decisions, if they're completely aware of the technology and the downstream implications. So I think that's okay for now, because I want the technology to proceed and I'm bullish on this space. But there is a deep sense of irony in that people are funding their own disaster. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the medium to long term, when people wake up one day and be like, hey, this decentralized exchange is taking all of our trading volume, and that's going to be really interesting to see in a year or two. Anyway, I could go further, and I might do another series later, but I hope that this series has convinced you that the crypto space isn't just reward points and are not just vessels for empty data, and that there's actually a lot of latent value here. There is a circular quality. Actually, I'm going to save this for a summary video, so just give me one moment and we'll jump into a summary video.